I'm Jordan Valdina. I'm a registered architect and a professional engineer. Designing spaces and connecting people to places they love is what I do. Using the material in this program, my hope is that I may inspire and provide value to you in your journey through our built environment. This is the Architecture Show.
So, one of the questions with involving an architect really is why. This day and age, a lot of people do it for smaller projects at least, just because they need it by law to get their building permit to allow them to, say, have an addition or make changes to their house or adjust the configuration of an existing building a little bit so they can sell food items out of the front or something, and they need a licensed professional. Generally with buildings it's an architect. However, not always. Certain engineering disciplines, potentially a civil engineer for example, may be granted the right by the particular jurisdiction you're in to design buildings. Sometimes people hire engineers under the guise of they're just able to assess the basics instead of to impose, and again that's in someone's perception of course, that there could be an imposition of a design style or a flourish perhaps that an architect would find value in, that an owner or builder would find extravagant, inappropriate, not fitting, etc. So given that this is the architecture show, let's look at why hire an architect. Now, a good architect will encompass the realms of engineering as well. The basics, as referred to before, the code compliance, life safety issues, structural. And when it goes beyond their expertise in the specific areas, like calculating the appropriateness of a specific beam, for example, or floor joist, but something that's perhaps more common, more outside the standard expertise of an architect, less common, is what I meant to say, they may bring on an engineer. As a sub-consultant, generally is the basis of doing that. The same is true for any system of the built environment. Mechanical systems, meaning generally heating and cooling systems or ventilating, HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. That's the realm of most mechanical systems. Electrical systems, you know, if it's a basic lighting layout and showing where outlets are and switches and maybe a couple data jacks, that generally would fall under the purview of an architect if they were hired to do so. However, detailed electrical specifications, more complex systems might involve bringing on actually an electrical engineer. So mechanical, electrical, same holds true if there are particular requirements, whether by the state or just by the nature of the design complexity, that require special expertise in the given area of design or engineering. Fire protection sprinkler systems or other fire protection systems, plumbing systems, again, if they're more complex. However, the architect sits in the role of coordinator, generally, of the design project as a whole, coordinating the technical and the engineering sub-consultants. And in that regard, acting as the owner or the clients, the developer sometimes, as their representative and their help, if you will, they're safeguarding the integrity of that design in regards to often the contractor, because each party has naturally different interests. Now, why hire the architect? Legally, because it might be required to get your permit. But before that, what was the value in an architect? Well, it was somebody who actually knew how to design the built environment, as we call it, generically speaking, should know anyway, better than people who don't focus in the discipline. It makes a lot of sense, and yet the commonality, the fact that we experience ourselves, our built environment every day, our houses, the layout of space that we like individually, sort of can seem a fuzzy boundary of, is there really a real expertise here? Really what I need is the engineering for how to make the house stand up, to make sure it stands up. And at that, I don't want too much, because people often characterize engineers as oversizing things. Of course, that's not exactly the case. And like anything, somebody has to be good at what they do to justify what they do as having value. That's a given. So this is not about people being incompetent, because an incompetent Builder, likewise, is not to make the case for when to hire a builder, is looking at what if somebody can't do it right. The good thing about a licensed profession like architecture or engineering is that the fact that they've obtained their license isn't, like nothing is, an ultimate assurance. It's not an ultimate assurance, but it's as close as we can reasonably get by requiring an accredited degree from a recognized institution of learning, a approved path of practice under other licensed professionals for various amounts of time in various areas, and then passing generally a battery of tests that almost entirely ensure that that person is competent to do what it is they're doing. There are exceptions, and there are people who, because of their character, might try to do a shortcut or something. That's possible, but that falls in the realm of anybody who does not have integrity, whether it's a builder, an architect, or a homeowner for that matter, pretending they have money they don't, or whatever. Make up the scenario. So this can't be about that. This is about people who legitimately know about what they're doing. So again, it's hard to sometimes see the value for some people. Generally, smaller projects, homeowners, and residential work, or people who don't have prior experience with development, more than others, are likely to question, why does it take what it takes? Maybe I could do a little simple sketch. It's a little hit or miss. Like any time one is venturing into an area of expertise, you might have a natural talent in it, but you might not realize some of the things that somebody, of course, who's well versed in the art would realize. And they are very specific, nitty-gritty type things that come up, besides just general design sense, which is very important and easy to actually mess up and think you're getting right, and then be in the space and not like it. And that's a litmus test of the quality of the experience of the space. So we have the elements of the subjective side that then, on a sort of a continuum, get to the more objective in regards to successfully ensuring things that meet code, which is there to protect life safety and protect property. So a qualified architect is not going to get into the way of your design. They're going to facilitate that design being realized, and realized, if anything, better. They're going to ensure the protection of life safety and protection of property via at least complying with codes, and then maybe getting to some higher level depending on the nature of the project. So a good architect, and all these things, they all fit together, and that's the complex of the profession and the art, is how they all fit together. So it's not just, I like this layout, it's not just that it meets code, it's also that it meets the budget, if they're being hired to ensure that your project fits within a budget. It's managing the process as it unfolds, or assisting in that management. A good architect can help in any of those areas, and wherever they're involved, they will integrate to the various complex factors. Even in a small project, there's a lot of pieces and parts, if you will, to coordinate. They are good at, practiced at, learned at integrating all those things. Better than an average person not versed in the art. It sounds obvious, and yet for many it isn't. And the idea of an architect is somebody who, again, comes in and imposes a style, for example, that costs extra money. That's not architecture. That's a particular individual who has a style and wants to do something and maybe doesn't want to listen to your own ideas. Again, that is not unique to architecture. That is a character attribute. However, stereotypes are based on, I guess, generalizations and experiences people have with some people. So, to tip our hat to that, perhaps the profession of architecture attracts a certain type of person. But again, that's not mostly the case. It's only sometimes the case. And among that group, certain people might have a design. So there's a responsibility on the person hiring an architect, like hiring any professional really. Whether you want the responsibility or not, it's true that we have it. When I go to the doctor, I have to do my part to get myself as educated as possible to even know how to ask the right questions and assess who for me will be a better or a worse doctor. So this is no different than that. So though we talked about all the pitfalls, we talked about some of the things they can do, and how does this all fit together? Presuming these are your goals, and they almost always are, right? You enjoy the space, If there's a function in the space, it is done productively, whether that's work in a home office or work in a commercial office or work in a commercial kitchen or work at a home kitchen. It works. So it does so beautifully, at least to the level fitting with what you want and can pay for with the project, fittingly, aesthetically. Right? So if you love really ornate trim details and you can't pay for the trim details, and that's what it takes for you to think something's beautiful, it's not the architect who's making it beautiful or not, it's the budget that limits the type of trim. And of course beauty is relatively subjective, and yet, just like a good artist, there's various rules of thumb that an architect becomes well versed in. And generally a great architect, in my opinion, will have a talent at it, which they sort of already had to some degree, but then you hone it. And there are certain things, just by seeing project after project after project, and by learning about it, of course, academically and otherwise, where one realizes certain things work to generally achieve an experience of a space, like, feels very nice and open and airy in here. I like it. I want to sit here and be here in this sort of, solarium portion of a cafe type area or such. Where again, somebody not well versed in the art is less likely to put those pieces all together just so to achieve the end result. Those are all values. Now, again, that can integrate into what I call highest delivered value. So let's say you spend $5,000 on design services for a mid-small project, right? And that money, if they're good at their profession, will more than pay for itself in the value achieved. There's various metrics for what the value achieved could be for a given owner or building operator, developer, etc. It could be resale value of your house. You need to communicate what your value system is. It could be quality, intangible, hard to put a number on, but quality of experience in your house and that you want to be in for, let's say, the rest of your life. So you have to really like it, and if you don't, it could interfere with you experientially, but you could almost say emotionally, every day, or bolster you every day. And putting a monetary value on that is a little tricky to do, but if it could be converted properly and the architect does their job well to realize a design vision that realizes your goals and your priorities, they will be more than worth their money. You'll get more out of it than you paid in. And if it's a business operation, good design, again, if the goals were communicated properly, the priorities of the business, etc. So an architect can't make a pretty business that therefore, pretty building that therefore makes you lots of money. You have to have a viable business, right? Of course, inside. But the architect, given the budget, can maximize the stylistic approach and the things spatially, material-wise that work to achieve the end of that business. So that literally can be dollars and cents more people coming in and out. And an example of this, go into certain restaurants people like to be in, certainly some of the larger chains, even though there might not be high-end architecture, are examples of a design vision, perhaps turned into a bit of a template, that works. And if you go in there and you like it, that's the value of architecture there in that very tangible way. Then you have truly the artist architects that people want their art. How do you put a price on that? Very subjective. But if they uniquely deliver a certain style that you as an owner, developer, other want and value, well, you're getting a lot at once. So covered in a lot of things quickly, but the bottom line is, besides for legal reasons and requiring a permit, why hire an architect? Because they can deliver highest value to integrate the design and the construction process from the design side and best represent your interests in doing so. Better than you could on your own, better than you could just with your relationship with your builder. And so those are questions to ask yourself when interviewing possible design professionals for your job.
Key Life.